In business, there's no room for guesswork. Every shipment matters. Every deadline counts. When you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. From the moment your package is first scanned in, it moves through a secure nationwide network, aiding in a timely and accurate delivery. You get near real-time tracking so you can keep up with your shipments. And with affordable upfront pricing, there are no hidden fees or surprise surcharges to throw off your cost sheets. It all adds up to predictable deliveries you can depend on. Because knowing your logistics are handled lets you focus on everything else: your customers, your team, and the future you're building. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to start shipping with confidence. USPS, official shipping sponsor of the NHL.
This year, experience the NHL Playoffs your way. Want to watch a single? Do or Die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series. Then check out Sling's 1-, 3-, and 7-day passes. Watch the chase for the cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, everybody, what's going on? Happy Monday. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you, live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. This is Money Moves. We're holding it down for the next 2 hours, and I'm just hoping I can get my life together at this point, JVT. I'm having a morning.
Why? What's wrong?
You've had a morning every now and then, correct?
Yeah.
Just everything from...
I have a morning every morning.
That is true, but your mornings are usually pretty good. You get up early, you get the day going, you get caffeinated, you get your protein, get a workout in.
We have a new wake-up time. Now we get up at about 3:15. Trying to get the day started earlier, get going. Got a lot of stuff to fit into a 24-hour span.
I don't understand you.
Here's the thing. So part of your day, we're going to get to the Ducks series against the Vegas Golden Knights. We have a tied series there. Vegas gets dominated, I would think. We'll get into the details as to why. You were ringside for this contest last night, which is why your morning is the way it is, because you had to land at, 8:30?
Well, I was supposed to land at 8.
Okay.
And we did. We landed on time, but I was on the tarmac for another hour and 15 minutes.
No, nobody cares about that.
Sorry.
Like, I'm setting something up.
Sorry.
Did you do your due diligence as a ringside reporter and speak and or meet Ben Afquack?
I did not.
Come on.
Devastating.
What are we doing
Devastating.
here? For those who do not know, Ben Afquack is the duck that I think looks really terrified every time they use him on social media to beat a drum. Yeah, in arena. So I'm really disappointed.
I'm on event level. The duck is on concourse level, I believe. Okay. So I didn't get access, sadly. Their actual mascot, though, I was in the Zamboni Vom, so I did get to see him a couple times. Their pregame was very nice. But this morning, it was just one of those mornings, right? Like, I'm trying to work and prep the show and do all of these things. Southwest Wi-Fi wasn't cooperating on the flight. We land. I think I'm going to have plenty of time to get home and do everything I need still. And then we proceed to sit on the tarmac for another hour. I tried to pull out my laptop to work a little bit. And the lady says, excuse me, we need to have our larger devices still stowed away even though we're just sitting there doing nothing and it's not impacting anything. So I'm a little bit out of sorts this morning, but we're still going to have a lot of fun. We've got so much going on in the NBA and NHL postseason. It's a big week as well in the National Football League, as the schedule release will be coming up on Thursday. PGA Tour Major coming up this weekend. So there's a lot of fun to be had. I just need to get through it, I think.
So let's get it started then, shall we?
Let's get it started. Time for the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
While we're at it, talking about all the fun stuff we've got going on, we still have daily Major League Baseball going on. And I put small ball here because it's a short 6-game card in Major League Baseball today. We'll preview them all. Your beloved Angels among them, trying to build off the 6-1 win over Toronto last night. They opened a 3-game set with our guy Adam Burke's Guardians today. We've got a game within a game with VSiN head-to-head.
That's right, which is why Adam is not welcome on the show tomorrow. So I'm sure we will not have him on.
Pretty sure we are.
It's been tough for the Angels. They did get a series win over the White Sox before the weekend series began, but you mentioned how it went in Toronto. Not particularly great. See if you could bounce back against a beatable opponent on the road against the Guards. Among some other interesting series getting started, New York and Baltimore. Can the Orioles start to turn things around? 9 games back in the AL East and 3-7 in the last 10.
You already mentioned the series I was working last night, but I loved the headline you threw in our rundown today. Quacks in the armor. Looks like we've got a series in the second round. Ducks tie the set with Vegas at 2. We're guaranteed at least 6 in this bad boy. Are the Knights getting too much respect in the market, not only for Game 5, but the series? We'll discuss that. Plus our reaction to Montreal Buffalo. The Canes ultimately complete the sweep over the Flyers this weekend as well. Rough time for Philly fans. Sorry, producer Justin, I didn't want to have to go here, but between the Flyers getting swept and then the 76ers getting rocked the way they did against the Knicks, not a great weekend. That said, let's push it forward to the NBA because we also had another big result last night with the Minnesota Timberwolves getting the dub, 114-109, cash the plus 160 money line and as a 5.5-point dog. They tie the series with the Spurs at 2. A big part of the how, though, JVT, Victor Wembanyama getting ejected midway through the second quarter for throwing a hard elbow to the face of Naz Reid. Bow up!
I'm amazed as we got the news about 20 or 30 minutes ago. There will be no suspension for Victor Wembanyama, no fine for Victor Wembanyama.
No, nada.
What are we doing?
So this was my first thought, and I'm sure the first thought of most people after they saw it yesterday and he gets ejected is, okay, what are the further repercussions of this going to be? Is he potentially going to miss Game 5? What's this going to look like? And then there's nothing? I'm not quite sure I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, so this is from Shams Charania. There will be no further discipline, for Spurs star Victor Wembanyama after he was ejected for elbowing Naz Reid in Minnesota on Sunday night. No suspension, no fine. Wembanyama will play in Game 5 against the Timberwolves on Tuesday night in San Antonio. I'm not calling for him to be suspended, but no fine? To look at what he did, intentionally throw an elbow into the head and neck area of an opponent because he was frustrated by something, and to not even fine him for that? I mean, so as this has been pointed out, okay, so then if I'm Naz Reid, for example, so I can go do that, right, in the next game, and I won't serve any sort of suspension. There was clearly intent behind what he did. You are setting such a ridiculous precedent here by not even, again, I'm not saying he should be suspended, but no fine to look at that and say, we're good here. You've served it. It has been, your penance is served. You're fine. That is absolutely insane. And I also thought it was stupid. Mitch Johnson, head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, after the game yesterday, tried to explain what he thought was going on and why Wembanyama actually did what he did. Take a listen.
I just think that the amount of physicality that people play with him, at some level, you have to protect yourself. Every single play on every single part of the floor, people are trying to impose their physicality on him. I get it. We get it. That's part of the game. But at some stage, he's gotten chucked. He's gotten pushed down in transition, running freely, all the stuff. He doesn't complain one time. We don't complain because we're just going to play. We don't really give, excuse my language. But at some stage, he should be protected. And if not, he's going to have to protect himself. And unfortunately, stuff like that happens.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Also, that wasn't a situation at all where he needed to be protected.
Correct. That is absolutely ridiculous. Yes, they're going to impose physicality. He's 102 pounds and 7 feet tall. He's very slender. He's small. You're going to try to impose some sort of physicality because he has his own physical advantages over opponents. It's basketball, man. It's playoff basketball. But for that to be the response for a head coach to come out afterward, and by the way, that was like the more muted clip, if you will, to start the press conference. He dances right on the line of saying, like, you know what, I'm kind of glad that he elbowed Naz Reid in the head. Like, this is absolutely insane to me. And Adam Silver with his league has been known to have a soft hand for the players, his stars. I mean, this shows. Again, suspension, probably not. But this is ridiculous that he's not even getting fined. But I guess you move on.
Maybe it's a first offense thing, right? First time he's been ejected in his young career to this point. Career low, 4 points, regular season or playoffs after the ejection. Spurs 0-7 in his career to this point when he scores single digits, 0-2 this postseason. You look ahead, though, to Game 5 coming up back in San Antonio, and with him on the court, they're back out to a double-digit favorite to see if they can respond at home with Wemby back on the court.
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting because in this game yesterday, there's a lot that stuck out. But first, first and foremost, Anthony Edwards is a stud too. I mean, they were struggling even post Wembanyama ejection, and he comes out, is absolutely brilliant. I believe it was 14 or 16 points in the fourth quarter, was hitting almost
16.
every single 16. Thank you. Was absolutely brilliant in clutch time as well. Ends up with 36 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists on 13 to 22 shooting. But we've talked about this a lot. You've hit on this, the strength of it. San Antonio, it seems, is going to go. First off, look, if Wemby plays the entire game, who knows how the rest of the game plays out. Maybe they win, maybe they don't. We have no idea. But San Antonio definitely seems to swing with what their three-point shooting is.
It's eerily reminiscent of the Celtics.
Pretty much. I mean, although we know the Celtics can shoot the ball really well, the Spurs are a more inconsistent team in that. But you look at last night, they were 6 of 26 from beyond the arc. That's 23.1%. In postseason wins, they're shooting 42% from beyond the arc. In postseason losses, they're shooting 27%. It seems like that's pretty easy. You just got to pick the winner, right? When we talk about these point spreads in the NBA, that's all you got to do. Okay, well, it's a little bit easier said than done. You can't really predict when the shooting's going to come, but this is a young team who's been inconsistent with their shooting all year long, and it seems that outside of Wembanyama, if their jumpers are falling, they're really going to have a good night for the most part and be almost unstoppable. And even when they're not, they're so good and tenacious defensively that they're going to be a pain in the ass for anybody. As the Timberwolves discovered yesterday, it took, I think it was a 7-0 run. There was a timeout. Finch comes out, and immediately Anthony Edwards goes to work in that fourth quarter, eventually takes over, and they win the game. But this is going to be pretty tough because we have seen series swing for less. We saw, of course, the Warriors lose a series to the Cavaliers where they're up 3-1, where Draymond Green gets suspended for kicking an opponent in the nads, right? We've seen it a ton. And now here we are, and it's 2-2 in a series that you could have been up 3-1 going back home because Wembanyama wasn't out there and your best player has to be. So who knows? Maybe this is the difference in the series. San Antonio's in your $4 favorite, though.
Speaking of three-point shooting, the Knicks shot 57% from three yesterday, 25 made triples, 18 in the first half, tied for the most in any half of a playoff game ever. 81 points in the first half, led by 24. It was dominant from start to finish as they ultimately complete the sweep, JVT. And we've got another team with potential for a sweep tonight as well. So will we get double dipping in the last 2 days?
Yeah, I think we probably will. We can get to the details of it, but how weird was it? And I think they were ridiculous. Was it 12 of their first 13 three-point attempts in that game? Absolute insanity. I think the Lakers are probably done.
Yeah.
Is the one you're referring to.
11.5 point dogs tonight.
Yeah. Look, I mean, over the weekend, it played out exactly how all these games have played out. You're like, good on you, Lakers. You're off to a great start. Good shot. And then in the second half, the Thunder just impose their will, pull away. They have been brilliant in this series in terms of the point spreads. The margins of victory have been absolutely dominant for them, covering every single one of these things. I guess maybe you get the spirited effort. This is the gentleman's sweep, by the way. This is the correct form of the gentleman's sweep. It is not any 4-1. It is win the first three as a gentleman, acquiesce and give them a game at their home floor in front of their crowd.
And then
you
come
go back
home and close it.
But I think given the way the other series is going, again, if you're Oklahoma City, in a perfect world, you'd rather win 4-0 and when your opponent is in a 2-2 set and they have at the very least 2 games left.
We'll preview that game, both of the games tonight in the NBA at length. Steve McGeehee covers the OKC Thunder for News 9 out there in Oklahoma City. He's going to join us coming up in hour 2. We'll also have Danny Cunningham, who covers the Cleveland Cavaliers, Locked on Cavs. He's going to join the program. Pistons up 2-1, but Cleveland gets one back. James Harden trying to quiet the haters, even though he claims not to hear the chatter. All of that, which we will hit on as we go. We're just getting started here on this Monday edition of Money Moves. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. I've got something for you that feels too good to be true. First, credit where credit is due. If you're listening to this podcast, you're already leveling up your betting game. You're riding along with our best bets and top angles. And when there's a good game on, you're probably getting involved with a few props and alt markets as well. But there's one more layer if you really want to step things up, and that's VSiN Pro. Yeah, I've mentioned it before, but things are only getting better for our pro subscribers. We just rolled out our MLB prop projections, breaking down some of the best edges across strikeouts, hits, home runs, and more. And that's on top of everything else pro subscribers already get, including public betting splits, expert picks, and betting guides across the sports calendar. If you haven't tried it yet, stop sleeping on it. You can get your first month for just $9.99 or save big with promo code POD26 on an annual subscription. Hit the link in the description and start cashing in with VSiN Pro. All right, now back to the show.
This year, experience the NHL Playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do-or-die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you, downtown Las Vegas, Circuit Resort and Casino. And so JVT has like a fun, I don't know if it's a fun game or what it is, but you like making my name longer than it is at times.
Well, I just call you different things. Stormathy, Stormantha.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I thought you would appreciate this because last night I'm driving in the car with Steve Levy and Kevin Weeks after the game. We're going to our hotel. And because it's Mother's Day and we were talking about like our parents' names and stuff like that, he goes, "Oh yeah, so is Stormy actually your real name?" And I said, "No, it's Stormelia." And Steve Levy totally believed me for a second. He's like, "Well, if somebody tells you that's your name, you're gonna believe them." I totally got him.
Stormelia.
It was so good. I said, "Oh no, yeah, it's short for Stormelia."
Got to add that to the
it was a good one, right?
Yeah, got to add that to the stock there. But it's pretty good.
And so I ended up telling him, I said, "Yeah, my co-host sometimes will call me Stormathy." And he's like, "Oh, see, that one I think I would have not believed." So I was like, "But Stormelia, you did. So what are you going to do?" Let's push it forward, though. We'll talk more NHL a little bit later on in the show. Back to the NBA because we do have two big games coming up tonight. We talked about it a little bit last segment. Two big game fours, Detroit, Cleveland, OKC, LA. And let's just start there again because I don't think there's a whole lot more really to get into. But OKC, a big favorite yet again to close out the sweep. They just continue to win and cover at a high rate, game after game, day after day. It doesn't look like LA has much fight in them, but in game 4, they always talk about that being the hardest one to get. Do the Lakers maybe put up a little bit more to be able to cover a number?
I mean, I think it's hard. No, is going to be my short answer. I think the problem is all right, where are you at right now from a point spread perspective? We are much further along now than we were at the beginning of the series. I mean, today they're 11.5-point favorite. You're looking at this closing 9 when they played over the weekend. Clearly, we've seen the market is finally adjusted, and rightfully so. I mean, the Thunder have covered every single game here in the series. They have dominated
every game in the playoffs.
So like there has to be some sort of an adjustment. So if you're somebody who has your own numbers making this, or if you're just sitting back and going, okay, well, I've been betting this series with the Thunder in mind every single game, is this push up to this 11.5? Is that worth it at this point right now to swallow that, go in and bet the number? And that's really what you have to ask, because at this point right now, there's no injury impact here. There's nothing that really would change the power rating outside of the result. And I would say that I haven't seen anything in the last few games that would make me think even a 2-point push is enough to really push me off the thought that the Thunder would be live here in a game like this. But it's always easy to sit back and go, well, in-game opportunity. Lakers get off to a desperate hot start as they have throughout this entire series. They have been very good in the first half in each of these first games, but then they kind of let go of the rope, and that's what we talk about all the time when it comes to the larger sample sizes of data. More opportunities for the better team to pull away. Mm-hmm. And so this is going to be probably one of those. Big effort in front of your home fans, try not to get swept, and then maybe the Thunder come in and put the foot down on the throat in the second half, and maybe you get a shorter number as the game goes along.
We've talked about this for the last week, but OKC continues to grow as an odds-on favorite to win an NBA title this year, minus 175, that current number. Does it surprise you at all, though, to see the Spurs still the second shot at 4-1, despite being in a 2-2 tie in their series? Meanwhile, the New York Knicks, who have been dominant since essentially midway through that first round with the Hawks, are 6-1 on the board and don't have to go through OKC until you get to the title tilt.
Well, and already on to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? That's the other part about that is usually you get these odds changes. Obviously, it's because that team has moved on already and everything will correct itself. But San Antonio is a very highly power-rated team, and there's a lot in your return that would tell you that they deserve to be rated the way that they are. So I don't think it's entirely surprising. And we have to remember as well that San Antonio did match up really well in the regular season against these opponents, against San Antonio. So that's all, or should be against Oklahoma City. So that's going to be part of this too, is if they win the series against Minnesota, which it is 2-2, so it's not guaranteed at all that they will, then I think that is a little bit more of a dogfight than people might expect. I know a lot of people want to throw out the regular season, although we can present tons of evidence in series past that would tell you the regular season doesn't matter in those matchups. So just keep that in mind as well, that San Antonio did really dominate that regular season series with OKC. And by the way, too, Jalen Williams is still unhealthy. That's the other part about this as well. Jalen Williams for the Oklahoma City Thunder, arguably their second best player. Say arguably because Chet Holmgren has really come along here strong. Mm-hmm. But either way, their second best shot creator has not even been playing here for Oklahoma City.
Talking the NBA round 2 doubleheader coming up tonight. OKC and LA, the second of the 2 games in the nightcap. The first one, let's stick in the Eastern Conference. Detroit, who's up 2-1 right now, in Cleveland once again. And we saw the Cavs have that bounce back at home. We saw James Harden rise to the occasion late in that game when you needed him and you needed the clutch scoring. Do we get more of the same? They're laying 3.5 in this spot tonight, total 213.5.
Yeah, well, again, you hate to boil it down to this, but first off, like you mentioned, Harden was much better. The turnovers weren't there, only 3 for him in the game, but the three-point shooting. What have we been talking about for Cleveland this entire postseason series? Against Toronto, they went out on the road in the Great White North. They couldn't shoot worth a damn against the Raptors. They would come back home. Shooting leveled itself off. Even against Detroit over the weekend, it wasn't a dominant performance from beyond the arc. They were 12 of 32, but they at least shot 38% from 3. They were sub 30% in the 2 games in Detroit. Mm-hmm. So more familiar shooting backgrounds, playing better at home, whatever we want to point to here for this group, playing at home has been much better for them in this postseason, and that sample size right now is growing. And look, they outshot Detroit to an extent, 9 of 25 from beyond the arc for Detroit. They shot just 36%. Cade Cunningham was nowhere near as efficient as well. I tend to think that it's going to be Cleveland or nothing. For whatever reason, they tend to be a little bit more comfortable at home. You look at where the point spread was when they played the other day, got up to 5. Now we snap back a little bit here to 3.5 in favor of Cleveland. So we've changed a bit. One of the things to keep an eye on is going to be Karis LeVert, whether or not he's going to be questionable for the Detroit Pistons. Same with Kevin Huerter. Thomas Bryant, is questionable for Cleveland. But none of those guys are going to impact a point spread here for either of these teams. So I would lean toward Cleveland to be able to get this done. I'm kind of stubborn at times, and my belief was that Cleveland could win the Eastern Conference. We've seen flashes of it, especially when they play at home, and I think that a team that has shown they're more comfortable at home would be able to grab a win here by about 4 points or more against the Detroit Pistons. So we'll ride one more time.
Okay. What do you think about the movement on the total? Not anything too extreme, but 2 points from its lowest at 211.5 up to 213.5. Do you think that correlates with kind of the Cavs offensive side?
Yeah. So on Saturday, I was on with Tim in the morning, and for the Killer Sports contest, I'd used the over in that game. You eventually get there. That game closed at about 211.5, 212. And then here we are again, floating around in that range. We're up to 213. If you still find that 212.5 out there's a couple, not many. I would say that's worth playing over the total. So again, if we're assuming that Cleveland's going to shoot the ball better, which they have been playing at home a lot better, the offensive efficiency would go up for Cleveland as well, then you're probably going to get a few more points there, obviously, in terms of scoring. What's going to be interesting is, again, the pace. We still haven't had a very fast series, but Cleveland eked out 95 possessions, which is one of the quicker games in Game 3. So, again, to the point of trying to speed them up, not allowing them to set their defense, not allowing them to jump passing lanes in those half-court sets and force a bunch of turnovers, then maybe you're going to be able to be better there. But Cleveland has not been good in transition. I mean, they've been awful off live rebounds. Something you would expect would give there. But I expect that Cleveland, again, wants to speed this thing up a little bit. I don't think it's going to be 102 possessions. But, again, I just don't think you want defense to get set and get going. So rip and run. I think you get a few more possessions here, plus some better three-point shooting. Again, I would expect that over 212.5, 213. I think that's still playable.
To go back to kind of the futures market conversation, both Cleveland and Detroit not given a whole lot of love in the market at all. Detroit, a 20-1 shot. Cavs out to 45-1 at this point. Does that sound fair in your mind?
Well, I mean, so the Cavaliers are down 2-1 in the series, right? Obviously, they have a game left, so that's going to be whether or not it's tied up 2-2 or down 3-1 going back to Detroit. And, the Pistons are have not moved on yet. So we'll see. I think that if you like the Pistons here to win this series, I would take a stab at it only because of the way they played New York in the regular season series. I mean, they were kicking the Knicks' ass up and down the court at times. So if that is a matchup that you think works in the Pistons' favor and you think they're going to win this series, I would take a piece of that because I think there's worse tickets to be sitting on with the Pistons, the 1 seed, going into that series against the Knicks team that they beat in the regular season pretty thoroughly.
So that's interesting. I wasn't even, like, off the top of my head thinking about that matchup specifically. I was thinking about it even from the Cleveland perspective, because you are somebody who had liked them as much as you had. When you get to a situation where you're head to head with another team, like, anything can happen in a best of 7 series. We've seen that time and time again. So could Cleveland actually get their stuff together and come back and 45-1 in that spot when you already know who your opponent's going to be?
Got to win a road game, man.
Sure, that's true.
I mean, not even that. You got to win a road game if you're Cleveland, and you have yet to do it at this point. So we'll see. But they improve. I think, what are we now, 4-1 straight up against the spread at home so far? No, excuse me, 5-0, 4-1 ATS at home so far.
Okay. Reminder, by the way, as we obviously talk through and break down the games here on the show and the network, another place that you can get picks galore is at Just Win Bets, baby, your premier source for daily sports betting plays. They break down the data so you can bet with confidence across the entire sports calendar. Plus, check this out for those of you watching on YouTube TV or the VSiN Watch app right now. Scan the QR code on your screen, or you can just type it in yourself, justwinbetsbaby.com. Start betting smarter with Just Win Bets, baby. The name says it all. We've got to step aside here. We'll get into a little National Hockey League talk a little bit later on. We do have one round 2 game coming up tonight between the Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild. Speaking of winning a game on the road, apparently this series hasn't started yet because we haven't had that. Every game, all 3 to this point, have been dominant one way or the other. Colorado at home, and then Minnesota, with the big win that they had in game 3, had to have it and did. But when we come back, we're going to stick with the NBA theme because the NBA draft lottery order is set, and we have some pretty fascinating wrinkles to discuss. Stick around.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
In the process of creating a bunch of new rules around the draft lottery and penalties and provisions for ending tanking as we know it. So there is potential. The lottery we saw over the weekend could be the last of its kind. We'll have to wait and see. That said, if you are a Washington Wizards fan, you are very excited, I would imagine. First time in 8 years that the team with the worst regular season record actually goes on to win it. Also broke a streak of 3 straight years where the team with the worst record, JVT, dropped all the way down to 5th in the draft. And coincidentally, I saw this as another little odd twist of fate. Washington is the 2nd straight team to win the lottery after trading for Anthony Davis.
Yes.
So there's that.
Yes, that is indeed. This was a consequential lottery for many different reasons. You see the draft order here. Wizards get the first pick. Jazz come in at number 2. Memphis Grizzlies at number 3. Chicago Bulls at number 4. The Los Angeles Clippers come in at number 5. We'll tell you why that matters here in a little bit. But that's your top 5. Top 4 really is always the one that matters. So Wizards, Jazz, Grizzlies, Bulls. First and foremost is the dynamic at the top of this lottery. So the assumed favorite to go with the first overall selection, that would be AJ Debonsa coming out of BYU. He has solidified himself as minus 500 to be the first overall pick. That is courtesy of FanDuel. Darren Peterson comes in at number 2 with the 4-1 odds. Cam Boozer at 20-1. Caleb Wilson at 22-1. And then remember when we were all getting randy over Darius Acuff in the midst of the NCAA tournament, he's 200-1 to go with the first overall pick. He will not be the first overall selection. Interesting dynamic. First off, who makes the pick at number 1? Immediately after the draft, there were reports that the Wizards are already talking with the Jazz about trading down, and that the Jazz would then get up to number 1 to make their selection. Largely assumed, I would suppose, to be Debonsa. We'll see if that is the case. But the Wizards are already thinking about potentially moving that pick, getting some more assets, and slipping back down. So we'll see if that actually happens. But with the Utah Jazz, whenever that pick happens, whether it's Debonsa at number 1 or they just stick a pick at number 2 and it's Peterson Boozer, that is a team that we widely mocked, and rightfully so, for their blatant tanking. They had never picked this high in the draft before, the Utah Jazz, in terms of the lottery and getting up there. They never moved up. This is going to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference next year.
You're sold.
Remember, they traded for Jaren Jackson Jr., They still have Larry Markkinen on the roster. Ace Bailey developed down the stretch. Keontae George, even though we did not win it, was a most improved player candidate at the beginning of the season. It looks like he is ready to take a very big step forward. Will Hardy's one of the better coaches in the NBA. They've got a plethora of talent, and they're still sitting on a top 2 pick here in the upcoming 2026 NBA draft. they are going to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference next year.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Even if they did just stay in their spot at 2, they're still going to get a really good player in that spot.
But they have assets they can move up. And if you're Washington, remember Washington, they have Trae Young. You've mentioned the Anthony Davis angle. So they've got 2 veteran pieces they feel like they can use to push themselves into the postseason. And so getting even more assets and trading back a spot to get whatever the Utah Jazz don't want to select is going to be pretty good. I think this team is the Jazz. I mean, this couldn't have broken any better for them. It's absolutely incredible. So when you talk about future odds for next year's postseason, I am going to be very curious to see how the market wants to rate the Utah Jazz coming in for next year, because they're a team that we were already pretty high on, the royal we. Yeah. And I do think that is really pushed forward by what they just did in the draft lottery, or what they were able to do, considering that they don't really have any control over the ping pong balls.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the pricing at the top right now? So you mentioned AJ DeBonsa, the big favorite here, $5 price right now compared to Darren Peterson out of Kansas at 4-1. Do you think that's a fair disparity between the two?
I don't know, man. I don't think so. Because here's the thing. Did you see the story about the creatine with Darren Peterson?
Yeah, we talked about that on Friday.
Did we, right? Okay, yep. So we did hit on that. So you do wonder if maybe that again, not that when we learned it, they learned it. I'm sure that NBA teams were already told this was the issue that we think it was prior to. But you do wonder if that we are making too much about a lot of stuff. Remember,
the internet was not kind to Darren Peterson this season.
And that's it. That's where I was going to go too. A lot of this could just be from, look, Twitter's not the real world, as we have learned many times with awards and other aspects of this. And so the betting market at times does get shaped by opinion that really is not educated in markets that are information-based. So really, we have nothing to go on other than the fact that maybe a lot of people thought he was a whiny quitter, when the reality is maybe he was actually dealing with something real, whether it's creatine-based or not, and that the NBA teams understand this, know this, and that the guy who, for a while, was assumed to be the best player in this draft might just be that, and might just be the first overall pick coming up this year. Now, I think it is somewhat dependent on what's going to happen with who's going to make the selection, obviously. I do wonder what the Jazz would have to give up to move up to number 1 and what they do want. I know a lot of people assume it's DeBonsa because of the BYU-Utah tie. I don't think you're drafting based on that. Case in point, the Phoenix Suns allegedly did that when they drafted DeAndre Ayton. How did that work out? Yeah. Coming out of Arizona, it doesn't really matter. So maybe that's going to be part of it, but I still think if you're talking about odds, Stormy, like you were asking, the dynamic here, I still think there's a greater chance than 4-1 that Darren Peterson's going to be the first pick. But I do believe that it's solidly DeBonsa or Peterson, and I don't think a guy like Boozer finds his way to that conversation.
Okay. I do know from my first round series matchup for Vegas and Utah, I got to talk to Ryan Smith, who's the owner of the Mammoth as well as the Utah Jazz, and he was even talking about, like, I know it was a down year, but I feel like the future's bright. And so
yeah, dude.
He sprinkled that in our hockey conversation. He made sure to mention it, so I do find it interesting.
Yeah, I think if you were paying attention, you kind of knew that this was happening for Utah. Just waiting to see this all, especially when they went and acquired Jaren Jackson.
Didn't we think this year, even though like where their win total was, that they could still exceed expectations, and then it just didn't happen?
I bet under 18.5 wins, so I did not think that was the case.
Okay.
I thought they were going to go super tank mode, and they did eventually.
Yeah,
they got off to such a good start. They got off to such a good start that it didn't really matter. So and I'm also going to be curious to see these. We only have a market for a first overall pick. So by the way, VSiN.com, Zach Cohen does a great job. Harvard Handicappers as well. He actually has a really deep background, does some writing for Real GM in terms of draft stuff for the NBA. So keep an eye on Zach's Twitter feed as well, Betting on X, because he's going to do a great job breaking this all down, better than I ever could. But it is, I cannot wait to see what the market's going to look like for not only the second pick, third pick, but the over-unders for some of these guys. Darius Acuff is going to be actually very interesting, which ties into my Clippers. So for those who did not know, the Clippers needed their pick, the Pacers pick, to fall within a certain range. It was perfect. Yeah. It fell right at 5, the lowest it could get for the Los Angeles Clippers, and that is part of the trade for Ivica Zubac. So the entirety now of the trade for Ivica Zubac is as follows. The Pacers got Zubac. The Clippers got Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, the 5th overall pick in this year's draft, a 2029 unprotected first-round pick, and a future second. So the Clippers made out like bandits here, and you do wonder what they're going to do at 5. There were some mock drafts that had Acuff going there at the 5th overall selection.
I saw Caleb Wilson also.
If he slips that far, might be there. Kid out of Illinois, who I am blanking on right now, Keaton Wagler could potentially be there too. It is a deep guard draft, so that's going to be pretty interesting to see where some of these guys end up slipping, falling. Right now, one of the most recent mocks has Acuff slip at a 6 to go into the Brooklyn Nets, but a popular player like Acuff and where the market's going to go with his over-under, I think is going to be pretty interesting because, again, for a while, and I think this is why you were gone. For a while, the steam on Acuff was made up. It was never really going to happen. And when you were gone, we had Kurt Helin on. And I asked him because he made some vague reference. He's like, when you hear all these people hot on a name just because they're doing well in the NCAA tournament, it doesn't mean anything. And I asked him, I was like, could you mean Darius Acuff? And he said, he is, and I'm paraphrasing, we'll have to find the clip, he is the worst defender in the draft. So you do wonder if there are many people who think like that, and that a guy like Acuff's over-under is going to be set at that 5.5 range, and that he's going to go over that with some ease if people think that a small guard like Acuff, who's not a very good defender, is going to slip farther than we think just because he did good in the NCAA tournament.
A guard I'm slightly more interested in finding out where he lands is Kingston Fleming. He's one of my favorite players to watch in college basketball this year. He'll be top 10, but like where ultimately does he fall in these different teams' eyes? Ultimately, when all is said and done.
For what it's worth, Brian Wu over at ESPN had him going 7th to the Sacramento Kings.
Oh, don't go there to die.
I mean, pretty much, yeah. You talk about, too, that sucks. I
want to still want to watch him,
Well, but I mean, for the Kings, too. I mean, to fall from 5 to number 7 in a draft like this, their roster's old and expensive, and it's just awful. So, pretty bad day for the Sacramento Kings. But good for your boy.
Okay.
Good job, Clips.
Good for the Clippers. Not to the same degree of being able to keep your pick from a team, but no, it just reminded me of the NHL lottery and everything that happened with Toronto last week, and the way that they were able to keep their pick and not have to let Boston get it, and then you end up having the top pick anyways, and so it's draft stuff is fascinating.
I just wanted to point out too that the Pacers got fleeced so bad that their president Kevin Pritchard actually went out and apologized on Twitter
publicly. Yeah.
Awesome.
The mentions are fascinating on that as well.
I'm really sorry to all of our fans. I own taking this risk. Surprised it came up 5th this year. There's a little bit more there, but
also tremendous. Admitting to what you've done in terms of taking.
Yeah, they took a risk.
So what are you going to do? You mentioned everything, though, that Zach Cohen is doing at the website right now, vsin.com/subscribe. If you want to get unlimited access to all of the content right now, not just NBA looking ahead in the postseason, but the NHL. We've got horse racing, Major League Baseball in full swing right now. And for a limited time, you can get our annual subscription that's usually about $240 for $199 right now. Plus, we're throwing in an extra 2 months for free. So our annual subscription extended to 14 months of access for a cheaper price. Hard to get better than that. vsin.com/subscribe. Get access to all of it. Come join us. You got to use the promo code PRO, though, when you do, PRO. We'll be right back.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the chase for the cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The NHL postseason rolling on as we welcome you back here to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Just one game tonight as round 2 rolls on. The Abs and Wild going head-to-head out there in St. Paul. Minnesota able to grab game 3 at home. They say a series hasn't really started until a road team wins. And Colorado, despite the dominance that they showed out at Ball Arena in Denver, did not come to play in game 3. The market certainly assumes that they're going to show up today because they've been bet up from around -118 JVT to -142 road favorites for game 4 tonight. High total as well, sitting at 6.5.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is there an injury here? Because this is a pretty sizable move, just considering the open, like you mentioned. I thought there was like an injury, and I'm not going to be able to look at an injury report and tell you who's impactful and who's not, but it's a move nearly 30 cents just based on what? bounce back here. Now, I will say this, and you would speak to this better than I. This does seem like a situation where water would find its level at some point when it comes to their penalty kill, because they gave 2 power play goals in the game the other day. This was the number 1 penalty kill in the hockey during the regular season, right, in the league. So I would assume that that's not going to happen again, that if you're going to put yourself in the penalty box, you'd be able to kill at a better rate than you did in this last game against Minnesota. Minnesota did, I should say, without really generating a ton of high danger chances in the contest as well. So I would expect that the market is getting it right and betting this up. But to your point, if you're just walking on in right now and saying like, Avalanche, sure, you could have got this at less than $1.20.
Yeah. For Minnesota, the only injuries that I know of are Jonas Brodin, but he's been out for the last 4 games anyways, and Joel Eriksson-Ek, who's still not available as well. Yeah. And granted, like Eriksson-Ek is a big loss. He is huge to their center depth and facilitating and making offense happen. He has been severely missed, and I think for Minnesota to really have a chance to continue to battle in this series and extend it to make it long, you need him back. But other than that, no. So the one development that I have seen at least was just from Colorado's team play-by-play person who is with the team, and he said that Mackenzie Blackwood is going to go today instead of Scott Wedgwood. But that's not an injury issue. I think that's just giving him an opportunity because the two split so much during the regular season.
Right, and that wouldn't be, even then, when you're talking about a change there at goaltender, the money line price moved in favor of the Avalanche. Correct. So it's not like, right? You're better than me. I don't think Blackwood would be a 30-cent improvement over Wedgwood, considering the way he's been playing. So,
and I actually, like, the only thing that I played in this was a total. You can get the over 6.5 at even money a good number of places. And I feel like, I mean, this series so far has been ripe for goals every single night. And I think it'll be another situation like that again. The likelihood of the Colorado Avalanche to be held to a single goal doesn't feel particularly likely. I think that they get back on the horse a little bit here. We know how potent they are offensively with all of the high-end skill and weapons that they have across the board. The power play as well, something that was a weakness for them in the regular season, has become a strength in the playoffs. And so I feel like we're going to get goals on both sides here, so that's the way I played it. I didn't have a firm feel on side one way or the other. I'm selfishly rooting for Minnesota because of the 40-1 future that I have, and also just wanting a long series. We've already had the Carolina Hurricanes get a sweep over the Flyers. They're going to be sitting around potentially for a long time if that Sabres-Montreal series goes long. I would like to have a few of these series go the distance. Right now, it only looks like Anaheim and Vegas is going to go there.
So at least one team has scored 5 or more goals in every game so far in this series.
They've all been dominant one way or the other.
And the last 2 have been a little lopsided, but I would expect maybe you get a little bit more even scoring and to get over the total as well. So I'm with you. I think that makes some sense. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say I'm surprised, but 6.5 shaded to the under the degree to which it is, I thought was somewhat surprising. Given the way that this series is played and the offensive potential for both teams, I thought it would be a little bit.
That's why I lean over. So we'll see how it plays out once we get to the ice tonight. But I'm very excited for this game to see if Minnesota can do it again. They were able to take advantage of home ice and last change and decide what their matchups are going to be against Colorado's guys. You definitely get the feel that Colorado will bounce back, but to the extent to win another game in St. Paul, I don't know. So I hope we get a back and forth, high scoring, fun affair later on tonight. Did not expect the 4-3 final last night the way that some of these other games have gone for Vegas and Anaheim to this point. And Tomas Hertl, I was very happy for him, even in the loss for Vegas. Finally gets a puck in the back of the net last night in the last minute 4, I want to say, was when he scored. Broke what was a 29-game goalless drought, the longest by far drought of his 13-year career. And for Vegas, as they come back home tomorrow, I do wonder, especially with Mark Stone unavailable. He was unavailable last night, and we received no information in terms of a timeline for him moving forward. He is a key piece to the forward group for Vegas and everything that they want to do. So if you're able to get Tomas Hertl and some third line contributions a little bit more, we know that Mitch Marner and William Karlsson and that Brett Howden line have been able to click. Good. Pavel Dorofeev even got there yesterday. So if other people can make up for his absence, I think that'll be key.
How much is true starter time on ice per game?
Every position is kind of different. But
okay, like Carlson played 19 minutes yesterday.
Yeah.
Would we expect more?
I think you want him to play in the 18 to 21.
Okay, right. The reason why I ask is, like I said, like he's played really well. He had the really nice assist last night as well. That kind of was that their first or second goal. Either way, Carlson was playing pretty well. And you would expect that maybe he can balance it out a little bit.
Yeah, that assist in front of the net was sick.
Yeah, that assist. Yeah. Having said that, if Vegas is going to continue, if they're going to try to win this series, they've put themselves in the penalty box like 4 times a game. You can't keep doing that.
Which isn't really their thing. I was telling you that off air. Like throughout the course of the regular season, they weren't like a super highly penalized team, but they've got themselves in some trouble. Typically, they're a team that does a good job of drawing penalties and causing other people to make mistakes, but they have made them. And especially knowing from round 1 the capabilities of Anaheim's power play, you don't want to put yourself in that situation. They've been awesome on the PK up until last night where they gave up 2. Which then you also worry, is that going to give Anaheim a little bit of confidence now that their special teams are working and that's an area that they can exploit?
Would you?
Real quickly, just to go back to your William Karlsson thing, the first game that he played since coming back from the long layoff with his injury was like 11 minutes. Yeah. He went from like 11 to 13 to then now in the 18-19 range. Yep. And John Tortorella did say that they need him playing top 6 minutes.
Okay. The series right now, minus 155. It's the same price as you're looking at pretty much for the game back here on Tuesday night. 6 shaded to the over. If Stone is not available for that, if I tell you now Stone's not available, are the Ducks at plus 135 worth betting to win the series?
I think so. I do. Like, I genuinely feel like this is a coin flip series. So any side that you're getting more than plus 125 on, I feel like is relatively worthwhile. Anaheim learned a difficult lesson, I would say, after game 3 or even going into game 3. And you heard a lot of the players talking about, because of how well they played in Vegas for those 2 games where they probably deserved to be up 2-0, had the split, but they got a little bit too comfortable potentially and were a little too confident maybe, and they had a bit of a reality check and they got back to form last night in a big way. So I'm a believer in Anaheim. I'm sure Vegas Golden Knights fans won't like to hear that, but
I'd also say that, maybe it's a little unfair. He had 3 incredible games, but are we going to get back to Carter Hart, who has been somewhat inconsistent as well?
Well, also, kind of feel bad for Carter Hart last night, no?
Yeah. Well, that's the funny part is he finally turns it around.
Yeah.
And then in this series, the Knights are like, yeah, let's just commit 4 penalties a game and make sure that this guy gets peppered with shots over and over again and has to play absolutely out of his mind, which he's done a pretty good job. But gives up 4 yesterday and was okay. But again, 2 power play goals. It's never really gonna. It's always gonna be difficult there.
Something else I love is the volatility and market swings and people's reactions and how they go from one end to the extreme on the other end for so many of these series just based on recency bias. How so many people were out and really worried about the Montreal Canadiens after game 1 and what happened in that series opener against Buffalo, despite, as we talked about a lot on this show, significant rest disadvantage after Montreal played a really tough, grueling 7-game series that had, 4 overtime games. They had tired legs. It was a tough opener against a new opponent. Since they have bounced back and gone up 2-1 now in that series, they're minus 240 favorites for the series, and everybody's wondering if Buffalo's ever going to win another game in the set.
And then yesterday, too, you score, 40 seconds into the game if you're Buffalo, Tage Thompson gets it, and you're like, oh, okay, like this is how this is going to go. And then immediately you just rip off, was it 3 or 4 unanswered goals and take control of this. This has been pretty surprising. I mean, you know me, I've been kind of pointing to Buffalo's metrics and be like, hey, isn't this a team that can be really a threat in the Eastern Conference? And right now, Montreal is all over them.
Yeah.
And there's really been no answer for the way the Buffalo's been playing right now.
How Montreal's been playing right now.
Montreal, excuse me.
No, you're good. And give credit to our boy Jakub Dobiš in net as well. I love this quote so much. I mean, he did an on-ice interview that they had to postpone a solid 35, 40 seconds just because the crowd at Bell Center was losing their gosh dang minds going so loud cheering for him. But post-game, when he was asked about what it's like to become a cult hero now in the area, he goes, quote, "I'm not a hero. I'm just me. I'm just a goofy goalie who tries to stop pucks. I pretty much will go home, eat, watch Game of Thrones, and go to bed. I don't think that's anything heroic."
I have a question for you about hockey.
Okay, we'll see. Also, very curious how long this series is going to go because the Carolina Hurricanes are already done with the Philadelphia Flyers. They could be sitting 11, 12 days before we see them next on the ice.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do-or-die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.